Hey everybody, Nick here, and today I got a disassembly and maintenance video for you on this little guy right here. This is the EDC Supply half delta. Interesting little piece here. My goal for this is just to see if I can dial, lubricate this guy up a little bit. Right now, my biggest beef with it is that the detent on it is not, it's not super strong, and so it's very nice for if you don't have any pressure on the lock bar there, for, opening up in that way, but, flicking-wise, not super reliable, so I'm going to see if lubing it up a little bit helps. But anyways, this guy is on loan to me from UrbanEDC Supply, and I'm going to take this guy apart. And I'm going to do so carefully because they have asked me to be careful because this is a prototype. Apparently, it is no different than the final production version, but that is something to keep in mind. Making sure I'm using a fresh T8-bit. What the heck? Okay. This is weird. Looks like the pivot, both sides screw into the pivot here. That's unusual. Okay, let's take this apart. This looks like another T8. By the way, if you're curious about any of the tools you're using, go ahead and check out nickshabazz.com/tools. And, or I'm using, that is, and you'll get full details on each of them. So, let's pop this loose right here. This is a Snyder knives design, as you can see by the internal engraving here. Right there, Snyder knives. Snyder knives. I'm sure somebody who's going to come up with a snide remark on that. Okay, no. All right, what we see here immediately is that this appears to have been assembled using earwax. So we're going to go ahead and switch that out for something a little bit nicer. In this case, I'm going to use some 10-weight nano oil, which should ideally improve that action a little bit, and certainly clean things up a little bit as we're going through to do this. So that should hopefully make some difference in the world here. Is this okay? They've Loctited this side, and then the other side is the one. So okay, what was going on there is, as I was taking this guy apart, this part wanted to come out. As I was turning the screw, this part, the other side of the pivot was fixed in place. And so as I was turning it, it actually started pushing this guy out. And when it pushed this guy out, the pivot stopped, well, it started turning freely. It spun freely. Good Lord, people, really? It's been a long day. I will freely admit that, but boy, it hasn't been this damn long. Where the heck did that pivot go? Oh, all the way back here. Okay, that has yeeted itself across the room. Ow. Let's go ahead and show you what I was showing you. See, this is high-quality entertainment right here. What we see here is interesting. This new phone doesn't appear to focus quite as close. Weird. Anyways, what we have here is a pivot with a flat side there. And that flat side interfaces with this little milled-in shelf right here. And that is that's a beautiful thing. That's how this guy avoids spinning freely. But what that means is that you need to apply pressure on this side, because this is the non-tooled side. You need to apply pressure as you're disassembling the knife. Otherwise, it's going to spin, well, freely. And so, there it is. The other thing that I wanted to check is that it is, in fact, like JB welded into place on this side. So for whatever reason, and I would probably count this as being the incorrect way to do this, they fixed this screw into the pivot, the tooled side, rather than the untooled side, which I feel like that seems like it is exactly backwards. So it looks like somebody just had a rough day at the factory there and forgot to do that, put it back together. Not quite entirely properly, but whatever. That's not the end of any particular worlds. Clean out these bearings here. Get some of the earwax out of those. Oh boy, look at that. This action's probably going to be substantially better by the time I'm done with this. And that's a beautiful thing. Yeah, look at all that gunction coming out of there. Beautiful. All right. Beautiful in the sense that this is about to improve. The world is about to get slightly better. Just mentioned that I am shooting this on a new phone. I don't know whether that's going to make any difference for you or not. It's tough for me to say, but I do tend to upgrade just because I figure the latest and greatest camera is probably a good thing, considering that I shoot all of my videos on an iPhone. I know Android fanboys, you've got some advantages, but at the moment I am in Apple's ecosystem, so you can shove it. And I tried Android, and it was a train wreck, but that was many, many years ago. Anyways, I digress. But I am also testing that out here today. So we appear to be finished here. There's not a lot to comment on. There is no internal milling, which means this guy's maybe a little heavier than you might expect, but it's not so bad. The overall approach, lock phase, everything looks pretty good. So let's go ahead and put this guy back together. We do see a ceramic detent ball here, which is a beautiful thing. Let's go ahead and put this guy back together. This side of the pivot needs to go... Okay, I'm going to reassemble it from this side. Go ahead and snap this into place here. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put down a little bit of lubrication right here and right there. Beautiful. And we'll rotate, rotate, rotate. Beautiful. And let's go ahead and turn that. Turn that. And turn that. Well, not turning anything, I'm lubricating. I used the wrong verb there, but that's okay. Correct verb choice is not one of the things you've come to this channel to expect. Mind you, I'm not quite sure why you're here anyways, but hey, we're going to give it our best. Then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to lubricate the detent ball hole here a little bit, and that should put a little bit of lubrication onto this surface here, which will allow this to hopefully slide open even a little bit more smoothly. And then I can snap this back spacer into place. Okay, so in order to get everything put back together, I kind of had to lift up on this lock bar here. That's a very basic trick, but it's a useful one. As you're taking something apart, oh, that's right, because it's the non-freaking tooled side. Great. Okay, next step I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and tighten up this back part here. And I'm going to use a little bit of lead locker. That's thread locker. Lead locker would, of course, be a lead-lined locker you keep, I don't know, radioactive materials in, or maybe a locker you want to be exceptionally heavy. Whatever it is, it's a thing. I'm going to go ahead and tighten this guy down. Oh, come on. Sorry for the beautiful camera angle there. I'm just trying very hard not to scratch anything up here, but this is just not wanting to seat. Come on, get in place, bro. Really? Really? And I dropped the screw. Ah, here it is. Okay. You know what I'm going to do? I'm tired of dicking around with the driver for the moment, so what I'm going to do is give myself a little bit more fine control by just using the bit. And my goal is just to get this guy. There we go. I got it started engaging with the threads, and that's really enough. That'll get me, you know. Now I can come in here and tighten, tighten, tighten. One thing to note is that these screws are relatively shallow. You can see there's that chamfer going deeper into the screw there. Here, I think I can zoom in a little bit there. Yeah, look at that macro action. Yeah, we can see there's a chamfer going down into the screw there. That's not necessarily amazing. So, yeah, do keep that in mind as you are putting this guy back together. Okay, now here's the pain. I need to make sure that this little piece here, because I need to screw from the other side, because this was, I think, put together incorrectly, or at least it was put together incorrectly. Whether they think so is a different question. But I'm aligning it right now so that the D shape is in position vis-a-vis that shelf. Then I'm going to insert my driver on the other side here, and then just kind of turn the whole pivot here, with the goal that this will, as I turn, that the shelf, oh, nope, the shelf rotated. So I want to make sure and push that shelf into position. Now that's fully seated on the back side there. And that should allow me to finish tightening this guy the rest of the way up. And right now it's not super duper tight, but I want to make sure that, oh, actually, that's right where it needs to be, tightness-wise. Okay, it is a little smoother. That's for sure. This is definitely smoother. The action is definitely nicer. Now, come on. There we go. Yeah. That's definitely smoother, and it's a little easier to break free, and it deploys a little bit more readily. So, there you go. There's your disassembly. Nice, easy, straightforward, and, yeah. So let's give a little bit of first impression here on this guy. First impressions wise, I'm reasonably impressed. It's got some nice elements to it. One of the nice elements is just this machining overall, right? It's got a very nice, you know, this streakiness to it. Actually looks pretty good, and it works pretty well too. It gives it a little bit of texturing here. Oh yeah, it's definitely nicer now that I've taken the earwax out of there. So that's good. The pocket clip on this guy is definitely a little beefy, but it is not beefy in this sense, but beefy in the big old sense, but actually does provide a little bit of extra ergonomic gription for it. And the size of it, and given I have smaller hands than most, but the size of it works pretty well. With the thumb disc actually standing in is a nice sort of back of the, a nice place for your thumb to rest here. Oh, there we go. Yeah, definitely runs better cleaned. You can choke up a little bit more if you'd like, kind of get onto this surface, but that's a little bit dangerous. I instead prefer to keep myself back here. I like this blade shape very much. It's a little bit of a Tonto sort of arrangement with a, bit of a front scrapey area as well as this, but there's a little bit of belly on the Tonto. That's not something we see super often, and it even has a little bit of a rhino feel to it. I kind of appreciate the blade shape. It's definitely unusual and interesting. A little close in the back here, but not dangerously so. I can't necessarily touch it, so even with my relatively small fingers. So that's that. In terms of the action, like I said, the detent on this is kind of in a weird position where it's a little bit strong for a thumb deployment, especially if there is any pressure at all in the lock bar here. But you can especially now that I've cleaned it out, pretty reliably deploy it in that way, and you can also do a finger flick if that is something that you are skilled at in doing. Whether this should have the thumb disc, I don't care for thumb discs generally speaking because they are the single most disruptive. See, that's the problem. Like sometimes if you don't have the right amount of tension down in the lock bar, it'll fail to flip in that way. But the thumb discs tend to block, like basically if you're cutting into something, the thumb disc will block that. You will be unable to do so. So this is going to be really effective for cutting like threads and things like that. But if you're going into cardboard or something, this is going to catch up on there. And so I don't generally love thumb discs. Thumb studs have the same issue, but it's not quite as flagrant, frankly, as with that. And also thumb studs provide a little bit more purchase for flicking in that particular direction. So I'm never a big fan of a thumb disc. In this case, I can kind of see it because there wasn't really a lot of room for a stud. Right, but it's still not necessarily, that's not something I'm super in love with. It comes down to a very nice thin edge, which I appreciate very much. In terms of the steel, I actually don't have a sense of that. It's not labeled on the knife that I can see. But again, this is a prototype, so you're going to want to make reference to external worlds as to exactly what that steel is going to be. But the grind on it is quite good. It comes down to a reasonably thin edge. The fit and finish on it is very nice. It's beautifully made, scented, all of that kind of thing. Yeah, there we go. Way better now that I've taken it apart. But still, yeah, so I guess my first impressions here are, this is a fancy small knife. And this is small, by the way. Let me get out a size comparison piece. The Spyderco Delica. This is tiny. This is a very, very small knife. And in fact, I would put it on order with, on the same order of... It's not an adjective here. I'm not even... I'm failing here. This is sort of dragonfly size, is basically the way you want to think about this. And in fact, I think that's going to be the target market here. I think this is going to be a knife that's going to be fascinating to dragonfly lovers, or folks looking for a knife with a very small blade, and all of the legality that entails. Where is my ruler? Here we are. Because measuring this guy out, yeah, we are coming in uncontroversially under 2.25 inches, which is going to make this legal in a lot of places. But nonetheless, it's got some higher-end cred. It's got some fancitude. Those are my first impressions. What I don't know right now are, because I haven't looked it up. I make it a point to give my first impressions without knowing things like price, but what I don't know is the price. I don't know exactly what's going on there, but at the very least, what I do know is that it's pretty damn well made and a reasonably nice looking little piece. So there we go. That is my that is my first impression of this little guy. I hope this has been interesting to you, and have yourselves just an absolutely wonderful rest of your day. Bye now.